You can be here in person. I look around. I know some of you have been through some medical issues and health issues, and we talk about the people we lose each week, and we need to be grateful for everybody we see in here. You know, it's a really cool collective of people in this room. Somebody said at the beginning of the year, it brings people together. We have the wealthiest in the state of Arkansas and the non-wealthiest. We have men, women, doesn't matter what color your skin is. Everybody comes together in here and enjoys football. And that's something we're celebrating. And that's a positive deal, right? Really excited about Jim McMahon today. Look at him. He's already, look, whoo! He's already got his sunglasses. Our man Gary Adams. You know, I had to tell Jim needed to take a break outside for a couple minutes and enjoy some of the sunshine. And while he was out there, Gary Adams walked up and saw a little smoke. But I had to tell Jim who Gary was. And Jim, we've got, listen, the Razorback royalty is here today to hear you speak. And this guy has had multiple surgeries. He's on crutches. He didn't have to be here. And I'll tell you, you did not have to be here, Jim. I'm going to tell you, I'll give you credit. You're a tough SOB, and I appreciate you being here. We're gonna have some fun with him. I'm just going to tell you, it's going to be fun. All right, this time, Gary Underwood, would you come up and lead us in a word of prayer? We got a lot of hurt Razorback fans today, so maybe a special prayer for them, if you would.
A few minutes ago, somebody asked me if I had a good weekend. I said, Sunday morning was great, you know. Now, I am looking forward to Saturday morning, 11 o'clock, Cotton Bowl. So you figure out where I grew up, and it wasn't Texas. So let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we just thank you so much for this beautiful, beautiful day you've given us. The opportunity we have to gather with old friends, make new friends, just enjoy each other's company and fellowship, and hear some great stories. Lord, we ask you to use us today in your service and give us strength to do so. In your name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Gary. Debbie, would you go ahead? I think you're back there. Could you close that door? I can still hear Justin out there. We appreciate them being out here. Looking forward to having Jim today. Butch Jones next week. Justin, when you think they're on the ropes at Arkansas State, they sort of fight back and hang in there, get the big win. He's next week. Then we got Jackie Sherrill after that. You're talking about some stories from Jackie Sherrill. He can deliver. One of our last year's speaker, Marty Smith, was on the buzz with us today. And so, obviously, you know, Marty was great last year, and he was promoting a new book he's got out. You should check that out. And we have Ron McGee, his co-host, coming in a few weeks. He will be outstanding as well. Jim, one of the things that's great about this club, we have so many great people that show up every week, and we've got great sponsors, too. Let me thank them. By the way, to mute your phones, if you will. Make sure and tell everybody, if you want to hear Jim McMahon a little bit later on, go to the Facebook page, go to our YouTube page. You can listen to it live on the buzz around the state. No other touchdown club in America does that for their members. We're the only ones that do that. Do want to thank our sponsors. I mentioned 103.7 The Buzz, Justin Acree. I mentioned Roger Scott, who's here in pink today, celebrating, obviously, October being Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And Justin Moore, appreciate them and their support of the Touchdown Club. AY Media, Heather Baker. Heather drove all the way from the beach to be here for the Jim McMahon meeting. Heather, thank you so much for your support of the Touchdown Club. Greg Hatcher Agency, Twin City Limo. Where's Greg at? It's Greg's son. They've been back and forth at Ball State. They finally put his son in their lane, and he lit it up this week. That's the guy that should be playing the rest of the year. Great to have Greg here. That's exactly right. Put the winner in at quarterback, Coach. My goodness. But just to let you know, the small things that we do, we ask Greg and Popeye to handle car service. One of the things, you know that we do, Jim, is that we offer to our guests, if you don't want to drive to the airport, we will pay car service. Stuff ain't cheap, but we appreciate Greg and Popeye handling that, and it makes it easier on our speakers. And those are the little things behind the scenes that maybe you don't see. We appreciate Greg and Hatcher Agency and Twin City Limo. War Memorial Stadium, Shay Lewis, Secretary of the Arkansas Department of Parks, Heritage, and Tourism, opened in 1948. Don't forget you can rent that place out. Please take advantage of them. It's really a cool facility. Arkansas Urology, 13 clinics across Arkansas, 150,000 patients that they serve annually. Guys, get your checkup. Please get your checkup. Appreciate Scott Davis and Chris Shinup and their support of the club. Pulaski County Farm Bureau, Todd Dennis, Stephen Reichard, great service with great rates. Give them a chance to give you a quote. Where's Todd at? Todd's after me because I'm turning 60, Rex, in a few weeks. He says, I need to have some insurance on me. What does that mean? I don't know. Maybe that don't have, I may not be standing here next week. Maybe it's going to be RJ or Chris. I don't know, but I need to talk with Todd about that. We appreciate Pulaski County Farm Bureau and their support. Dairy Queen, Blake and Nelson Lively, we appreciate them so much. Don't forget the new Backyard Bacon Ranch Signature Stack Burger, which is one of Rex's favorite, as well as the #1 ranked Blizzard. You know what the #1 ranked Blizzard is, Rex? The Snickers Brownie Blizzard. After Saturday, we needed that after A&M. Simmons Bank Arena, Dropkick Murphys tomorrow night. If you want to go see that great concert. Stevie Nicks, tickets still on sale. Roger, Tommy, we're going to that. We want to make sure their tickets are still available for that. That's in March 6th. On March 6th, so take advantage of them at Simmons Bank Arena. Get your tickets now. Summerwood Sports, the most amazing new sports facility in Arkansas. It's located in Bryant. The Hendricks family doing it right, just like they did with Big Red. Basketball, volleyball, parties, clinics. Check them out at summerwoodsports.com. Very cool facility to do great things. More is coming from that organization. Really cool stuff. Advantage Service Company, One Call Does It All. Kevin Brooks, we appreciate them. Residential and commercial sales and service for HVAC, plumbing. Make the call, 501-1-CALL. Wright, Lindsay, and Jennings. Judy, your name came up today on the radio show. It did. Not going to say why. You know why. It did, all in a positive way. They know many of your businesses have to deal with government and industry regulations. Wright, Lindsay, and Jennings, they have the contacts and know how to handle all your needs at the federal, state, and local level. They are pros, and they do it better than anybody. You know what I'm talking about. Love Judy. Love Judy. How about yesterday, the Patriots and the Cowboys mentioned three. It was a blowout, but we had three of our guys that represented with the Cliff Harris Award. Yeah. Matt Judon, Kyle Duggar, and our other winner. I just went blank. We have three. So we have three all together. So that's really cool that we have an award that we can turn on the TV and see them represented on national TV. All right, also want to thank the Arkansas Democrat Gazette. Wally Hall and Amanda Copley will be recognizing our All-Arkansas Player of the Week. What's interesting, what's great about this is that the father of our Player of the Week was an offensive lineman when I played at the Razorbacks. He was one of my teammates. His name was Dale Williams. I'll give him a round of applause right there. Jessica, you know where I'm going next. Dale now looks like the linebacker. I now look like the offensive lineman that he was at one point. Just the truth. I'm not bothered by it. It's a fact. But appreciate the Democrat Gazette and Amanda and Wally for their support. Crane Automotive, the largest dealer group in Arkansas, 20 locations, 1,000 Arkansans employed by Crane Automotive. Tell them the Touchdown Club sent you. Appreciate Christian Crane and his support of our Touchdown Club. They're wonderful folks. All right, so here we go. I teased this now. I teased this last week. So this is what we do, Jim, that no other Touchdown Club in America does. Sissy's Log Cabin is one of our new sponsors. So we allow all of our sponsors to run one commercial. So we're going to play this 30 commercial, and I'm going to tell you an interesting little secret. Let's hit the commercial there, Matt.
It's all come down to this. One play to make history. There's the handoff. He makes a man miss. The opposition is closing in. He stiff-arms a defender. Nearing the goal line, his knee goes down. Is it enough? Yes! Touchdown!
Oh, I'm sorry. It happens all the time.
There you go. Over 50 years in the business. They also did, this is Debbie Wyman, just so you know, this is Debbie Wyman's necklace. So Keith Stokes, the late Keith Stokes, who just passed away, took care of all the tusks. This is actually a tusk from one, I think it's tusk 4 or 5, tusk 5. He gave this to Debbie. So Debbie took it to Sissy's, and now this is the necklace you see her wear every Touchdown Club meeting. Is that not great? But Sissy's did that, and Sissy's also wants to make you very happy today. So they've not done 1, not 2, not 5, not 7, but they have 10 $250 gift certificates to Sissy's underneath the chairs in front. Go to it. See if you've got one of the 10 $250 gift certificates from Sissy's. Go to it. I should have music playing this, Jim. I completely missed up on this. I completely missed on this. If you're a woman, I want to hear a scream. If you're a man, I want to hear woo pig. I see one back there. Raise your hand if you got them. There's one. Knock somebody out of the way if you have to. Fight for your gift certificate. There's another one. I see a lot of guys raising hands. I see a woman over there. Anybody else? Raise them up. I see one in the back. That's 4. They're going crazy, Rex. 5. I see right there. Good job, young lady. Good job. All right. I see. Don't you be embarrassed over there, young man. Listen, you take care of your honey with that right there. All right, if you've got, hey, there you go. It took him a while. Must be tight quarters over there. All right, if you've got one, raise your hand. Let me see. 1, 2. Very nice. So here's the deal. You have to take that and find Jim Englehorn. Where's Jim? Is Jim here? There he is, right there. Jim. Find Jim. Stand up, Jim. Find Jim, and he will. Let's give it up for Sissy's $2,500 in gift certificates there. Jim might be asking, what about me? Talk about Jim McMahon. What about me? Also want to thank Double B's Steve Lytle, the owner, and GM Ed Light, over 30 locations, 50 years in business. Gas it, grab it, and go. It's Double B's. We really appreciate their support. What a great group of guys that is. And Oaklawn Sports, I apologize for anybody who followed my picks this week on Oaklawn Sports app. Very frustrating day. Zach, I don't know what to say other than I'm bouncing back next week. For example, last night, Mahomes. Did anybody watch the Chiefs-Jets game? So Jim, I'm a little new to the betting game with this Oaklawn Sports app. So all Jim McMahon has to, not Jim McMahon, Mahomes. All Mahomes has to do for Kansas City is walk into the end zone. He's at the 1 yard line, but he runs out of bounds or takes a knee. Right? He slides down. If he just runs in the end zone, lots of people make lots of money. I did not. So I want to apologize. I was actually sitting at a restaurant the other day, working on my computer at Sunday. This guy said to me, I'm not going to say his name, he said, you know what, I follow your picks every week on the Oaklawn Sports app. I use them all this week. So I told the bartender, I got his today. So anyway, it is what it is. But I'm still trying, Zach. I'm not giving up. So thanks to Oaklawn Sports. Last but not least, Simmons Bank. Davis Stogsdill and Reggie Rose representing Simmons Bank today. We couldn't do what we do every week without Simmons being the leader of what we do. If you've got a business need, go to them and talk to them. Tell them you're at the Touchdown Club. Find some of their members here, some of their staff. They'll take great care of you. Even though they're up to 6 states and $27 billion in assets, they're based in Arkansas, and they're Arkansas folks. Let's give it up for all of our sponsors today here. We appreciate it. Couldn't do it without them. Do want to thank Dwayne Duncan taking photos, Matt Johnson doing video, Chris Kane, RJ Hawk, Meredith Hell doing social media, Vines Brookshire Agency handling our social media, Rex Nelson will do a great job here in our recap, and the best volunteer group in America right here. The guys come in here every morning and set up everything, know where everybody's sitting. Behind the scenes, you don't even know that's happened. No other Touchdown Club in America has that, led by Debbie Wyman, our executive director. Let's give it up for all of our volunteers. So, Rex, I just ask that you be quick on the Razorback game, if you will. Give it up for Rex Nelson, everybody.
Thanks, David. It's going to be like castor oil. We're going to swig it down real quickly, and then we will move on. What an honor to be here today. Thank you all for being here with the great Jim McMahon. You know, David, as a young sports writer, I only got to cover one Super Bowl, and it was in New Orleans in January of 1986. Wally was nice enough to let me go down for the Arkansas Democrat, spend all week in New Orleans, and let me tell you, there were no shortage of stories even in the week leading up to the game. In fact, a certain quarterback that was starting in that game even mooned a television news helicopter during practice one afternoon. So we had no shortage of copy. Thank you, Jim. It was a great week. All right, here we go. Aggies 34, Arkansas 22. Aggies moved to 4-1 overall, 2-0 in the conference. Hogs are 2-3 and 0-2 in the SEC. Arkansas held to just 174 total yards. Aggie defense, 7 sacks, 15 tackles for loss. A&M wins for the 11th time in the last 12 meetings. while outgaining the Hogs 414 to 174. Arkansas had just 10 first downs. That's the lowest number since that 37-0 loss to Georgia 2 years ago. Couple bright spots. Cam Little did become the first Arkansas kicker to make 2 field goals longer than 50 yards in a game since Steve Little did it for Arkansas in 1976. It's a little. There we go. And K.J. Jefferson set 2 Arkansas career records. He's now responsible for the most touchdowns, 78, and the most yards of rushing, 8,408. He broke the record of Matt Jones in both of those categories on Saturday. So congratulations to KJ. All right, we will move on. How about a third consecutive victory for Arkansas State? You people had written them off after the first 2 games. 52-28 at UMass. Now, last week, if you were here, you'll remember I told you to remember the name of a freshman quarterback, a true freshman, named Jalen Rayner. Rayner was 20 of 25 passing for the Red Wolves, 383 yards, and a school record 6 touchdowns. Get this, he's only the 4th true freshman since 2013 in FBS to throw 6 TD passes in a game. One of the others was a guy named Patrick Mahomes. He is something special. So the Red Wolves moved to 3-2 with their 3rd consecutive victory. UCA also 3-2, now 2-0 in the United Athletic Conference following a 29-27 victory at Southern Utah. It was close, even though UCA more than doubled Southern Utah in offense, 471 to 232. UCA now up to number 23 in the nation in FCS. So congratulations to the Bears. UAPB falls to 1-4 overall, 0-2 in the SWAC, a 27-0 loss to Southern University in Pine Bluff on Saturday. Now, the Arkansas teams in the GAC go 5-1 against Gary's native Oklahoma. They are now, this says a lot about small college football in Arkansas, they are now 15-3 this season against Oklahoma teams, 15-3. 3 ranked teams, Ouachita, Harding, and Henderson. So 3 of the top 25 in NCAA Division II from right here in Arkansas. Ouachita beat Southeastern Oklahoma 34-7. That's the 17th consecutive conference victory for Ouachita. Harding beats Southwestern Oklahoma 64-0. Henderson beats Oklahoma Baptist 27-14. Southern Arkansas beats Southern Nazarene 28-21. Arkansas Tech gets its first win, beating Northwestern Oklahoma 44-21. Only loss was UAM, and that's because, unfortunately, their great quarterback, DeMylon Brown, apparently broke his hand right at the end of the Ouachita game the week before. East Central got a 35-28 victory over the Boll Weevils. So you have Ouachita's 5-0, Harding's 5-0, Henderson's 4-1, SAU's 4-1, UAM's 2-3, Arkansas Tech's 1-4. Among our Division III and NAIA schools, not so good. Sewanee 20-19 over Hendricks. Hendricks is now 2-3. McMurray 52-14 over Lyon. Lyon is now 2-3. Texas Wesleyan 62-0 over Arkansas Baptist. Arkansas Baptist now 0-5. Back to the SEC. How about that Ole Miss LSU game? Was that not fun to watch? 55-49, Ole Miss in Oxford. Jackson Dart throws a 13-yard TD pass to Trey Harris with only 39 seconds remaining. Get this. There were 1,343 yards of offense in that game, 14 touchdowns scored, 2 late lead changes. Dart, 26 of 39, 389 yards. He also had 50 yards rushing as Ole Miss gets the big victory in Oxford. And guess who gets to go to Oxford this week? Number 1, Georgia struggles. I thought Auburn was going to pull it off for the longest, 27-20 Georgia, Carson Beck threw a 40-yard touchdown pass to Brock Bowers in the final minutes to save the number 1 team. Alabama beats Mississippi State 40-17. Tennessee 41-20 over South Carolina. Kentucky 33-14 over Florida. Missouri 38-21 over Vanderbilt. So, conference rankings in the East, Georgia and Kentucky. Yes, Kentucky. Both 2-0. Kentucky's 5-0 overall. Missouri's 1-0 and also 5-0. So Kentucky and Missouri, nobody saw that coming, are the other two 5-0 teams, along with Georgia in the East. Florida's 1-1, Tennessee's 1-1, South Carolina's 1-2, Vanderbilt 0-2. And then in the West, Alabama, A&M 2-0, LSU 2-1, Ole Miss 1-1, Arkansas, Auburn, and Mississippi State yet to have a victory in the West. Arkansas and Auburn 0-2, Mississippi State 0-3. This week, Southeast Missouri is at UCA. Southern Nazarene at Henderson. Oklahoma Baptist at Southern Arkansas, and Texas College at Arkansas Baptist. So, you know what that means? You've got the choice of Conway, Arkadelphia, Magnolia, or here in Little Rock. Get out and see a college football game on Saturday. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Rex. Appreciate that. A couple things before we bring up Jim McMahon. I do have to really emphasize, and I'm sure Jim will say the same thing after. Yeah, we're good. Yes, we're good. Yeah, thank you, Amanda. Very, very nice. Is that we can't do this. This thing doesn't work without y'all being here. I'm just going to tell you. So I talked about the other touchdown clubs calling and saying, "What are you guys doing?" And they have 100 people, 75 people. I'm going to tell you, having a room full of folks like this and the energy that you bring, it makes a difference. It impacts our speakers who come here, and they feel it. So I know it's not easy to get here. I know there were some issues with the garage today. I apologize. Appreciate your patience, but I'm just telling you, your presence makes a difference. And Jim, you'll feel the energy and love from this crowd here shortly. Before we bring Jim up, at this time we want to bring R.J. Hawk up and announce our All-Arkansas Preps Player of the Week, who made a long drive to be here today.
Thank you, Baz. Judy, if you need a future client, I've got one for you, because when you hear these stats, it's pretty impressive. So our Player of the Week came from Rogers, Arkansas today, and I looked it up prior to getting here. 208 miles and exactly 3 hours to get to this ballroom. So round of applause real quick for him and his family to make it all the way down here. And they did, Rex, I think I confirmed they stopped at the Hillbilly Hideout on the way down in Ozark. But either way, our Player of the Week this week is Dane Williams from Rogers. And hear this, guys. 2 weeks ago against Southside, he was 26 of 44 for 480 yards and 6 touchdowns in a 44-38 win against Southside. Jim, you're going to like this, okay? So then we go into last week's game against Fayetteville. They lost the game 47-42, but he had another great game. 28 of 50 for 478 yards and another 6-touchdown performance game against Fayetteville. So in 2 weeks, he was 54 of 94, which comes out to be 57%. For 958 yards and 12 touchdowns in 2 weeks of football. He's committed to Harding. He's got a 4.0 GPA. His dad, Dale, and his mom, Michelle, are here with us today. Our All-Arkansas Preps Player of the Week is Dane Williams, quarterback at Rogers.
Great job, young man, and we'll get your picture up here with Jim after the banquet's over with. And Dale, great to have you. Great to see you, looking great. I know, I can't say the same, but you're doing good at whatever program you're on, so I'm happy for you. God bless you. Couple of things real quick here. There are a few Razorbacks here, and I know I may miss some folks. But one of my teammates, Jim, you may have played against him. He won a Super Bowl for the Giants in the late 80s, mid-80s. Great safety, all Southwest Conference. I think he might have been on a couple All-American teams. Greg Lasker, give it up for Greg Lasker. Where's Greg at? Where's Greg? There he is right there. Yes, he still looks like he could play. Very nice. Good job, whatever. Also, too, I mentioned Gary Adams. So great to have Gary, one of the greatest DBs of all time, and got a chance to visit with Jim before the meeting. Give it up for Gary Adams, everybody. One of the Razorback greats. And Cole Plafkin. Where's Cole at? He's with Simmons Bank now. Look at that guy. He can still play. Look at him right now at Simmons Bank. Get out of his way. Did want to mention, too, Chuck Monan with Double B's here. I didn't know we had the Double B spokesperson here. Very nice, Chuck, and brought his dad here, wearing all the Michigan garb. Very nice. Appreciate that. Also, too, you guys may have noticed, I think, Debbie, we still have shirts available. Very proud. Roger was loving my Touchdown Club shirt and pull over today, so take advantage of those. Also, too, let me mention this. I think I alluded to it last week. But coming up in a few weeks, here it is. So, Roger, you and I, our teammate in the morning, Justin Moore, on October 12th is being honored as the headliner of the year at the second annual Arkansas Press Association Press Freedom Gala at the Chenal Country Club. And that is for folks, these are for folks who are making impact. And the reason they're honoring Justin, I think, because of all the charity work he did after the tornado relief. So very honored I'm going to be emceeing this event. So it's really cool we get to honor Justin Moore. And also, Rex Nelson will also receive the Distinguished Service Award for all of his work. And that's worth a round of applause for Rex. Proceeds benefit the Arkansas Newspaper Foundation. Tickets are available at Press Freedom at arkansaspress.org. You can just Google that by headliner of the year, Arkansas Press Association. So very nice to be able to honor you. I'm very honored to be able to. You can't get away from me, Rex. You can't get away from me. I can't either. I don't know what I'm doing. I never say no. So somebody also too who left. Go ahead and raise your hand. Who left their key? You're not going anywhere after the meeting. No. All right. Don't be. That's right. Don't do it now. Do it afterwards. All right. We are so fortunate to have one of the most iconic figures in NFL history. I leaned over to Jim. I said, Jim, do you remember who Harlan Hill is? Harlan Hill was one of the greatest receivers in the history of the game and one of the greatest Chicago Bears to ever play. And Jim, you said you knew who he was. I don't think he was around even when you played. We honor the top small college football player in America over there. And when you look to the right, there's another Bear Award named after Dan Hampton, the top defensive lineman in college, in high school here in Arkansas. What do we got here? Look at that. That's about a $2,000 trophy that we give away to the top collegiate defensive lineman of the year. By the way, I do want to thank Bill and Doris Lawrence for sponsoring Harlan Hill Award. We appreciate that. But it's pretty cool, Jim, that we honor a couple Bears here. By the way, are there any Bears fans in the house? Jim, listen, we've had Peyton Manning here, we've had Terry Bradshaw, but I'm going to tell you, when we mention Jim McMahon, place goes crazy. And you know what? They're mostly women. I'm just saying. I don't know what that means. Although I did ask Jim, and he is single. I'm just saying. He is single. So am I. I told Jim we could go hang out after the meeting. I think he said he didn't need my help, so it's all good. So I think we need to remember, outside the fact of how iconic he is, this is one of the greatest players to ever play the game. You know, we mentioned Peyton Manning, who was here, one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play the game of football. When you hear the numbers that Jim McMahon put up in college, then what he accomplished in the pro game, one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play this game that we love. And we're very fortunate and very thankful to have him today. Let's check out Steve Sullivan's intro.
I'm the punky QB known as McMahon. When I hit the turf, I've got no plan. I just throw my body all over the field. I can't dance, but I can throw the field.
Punky QB burst onto the national scene at Brigham Young University. McMahon was Hall of Fame good at BYU. He set 32 NCAA records, throwing for just under 10,000 yards in his career. Jim also engineered one of the greatest comebacks in college football history, the 1980 Holiday Bowl. SMU had BYU down 45-25 with 4 minutes to go. BYU won it on the game's final play.
Man all the way back in his own 46, throwing for the end zone. Receivers are there, defenders are there. It is in the end zone. Who has the ball? Touchdown! Touchdown!
He was the 5th overall pick in the 1982 draft. He led the Bears on a steady climb. They arrived in 1985 with a magical season, a 15-1 record. Jim McMahon became a megastar. He rushed for 2 touchdowns in the Bears' Super Bowl rout of the Patriots.
Lone setback now, and it's all disguise. McMahon rolls in a somersault 6.
Jim McMahon retired with 15 Bears franchise records and was voted one of the 100 greatest Bears of all time. And he did it his way. Please give a nice Little Rock touchdown welcome to a true original, Jim McMahon.
Thank you very much. Please sit down. Let's enjoy your lunch.
I think, Jim, we've been doing this for this is the 19th year of the Touchdown Club. You were the first to ever wear his sunglasses and a boot, a medical boot at the same time. So I love you're unique in every way. So first of all, for those that don't know, you came in a wheelchair. I've been reading about this fight you've been with your foot. What's happening there?
Well, I had a very simple surgery 22 months ago for some bone off my ankle and a couple of bone spurs. I played on a broken ankle for years. They kept saying it wasn't broke, and got to the point I couldn't walk. Finally got it taken care of, and then about 4 or 5 days after that surgery, my foot exploded from an infection. So I had an open wound for 7 months, had 7 skin grafts. I've had 6 operations now in the last 22 months. They were going to cut my leg off at one point. They saved the leg, but it's still not working too well. But it's been very frustrating. You know, I had 20 surgeries prior to this, never had a problem, and then this most simple surgery I've ever had turns out to be the worst.
And that's what I was saying. He didn't have to make this trip. I saw him get off the limo van there, the Hatcher limo van last night. I said, man, he easily could have just said, man, I'm not coming. So one thing about you, you're a tough dude, and appreciate you being here. Now, it's not your first time to Arkansas, because I saw you, my good buddy John Daly, who I think we've got a picture of you and John. This was not at the event, but you came in.
That was down in Tennessee, I believe.
You came in to play at John's golf tournament, and the thing I remember is that both of you were barefoot. And so John never minds being barefoot, and you sort of like playing golf barefoot, right?
I love playing barefoot. Yeah, I don't do shoes real well. After all those years of cleats and fat guys stepping on my feet, I don't. I try to stay. I live in Arizona now, so flip flops or barefoot is the way to go for me.
So, John Daly, I told Jim, I went to school with John. John and I are classmates, and it's great to have John last year with John Gruden. He's good buddies with John. So I called JD yesterday on the way back from the Texas A&M game and just said, hey, we got Jim McMahon. I know you're buddies with Jim. I said, why don't you send me a video and talk about Jim? Well, I think he got a little confused, and so he decided to just tell me how good Jim was going to be, number one, and then he decided to talk about the Razorback football team. So this is about 30 seconds. We had to bleep one thing out, but this is I said, John, you mind if we use this? He go, oh yeah. So here we go. This is John Daly talking about his buddy Jim McMahon.
Hey, Baz, you are going to love Jim McMahon. He is the greatest dude. He's got some hell of a stories, and one of the toughest quarterbacks I've ever seen, and one of my best friends. So good luck with him tomorrow. You'll love him. He's the best, and he'll make you laugh. Sorry about the game yesterday. We need a new offensive coordinator, as we all know, but you're going to love him, buddy. See you.
That's our boy Johnny.
JD's going to call it the way he sees it. So he's great. Obviously, he's like you. He sort of does it his way, and he doesn't care what anybody thinks.
I had a great time when is it Dardanelle? Is that where he lives?
Dardanelle,
yeah. I spent I think it was 3 or 4 days at his place, and it was pretty epic. It was. John, he loves to have a good time, and so do I, so it was a lot of fun.
It's a match made in heaven. And I mentioned you've been very busy. You had an event, I think, this weekend, and I saw you did something a few weeks ago over at Wrigley, and I just want to make sure for those who didn't see it, let's take a look at what you did at Wrigley Field the other day.
Former Chicago Bears quarterback and Super Bowl 20 champion, Jim McMahon.
Hey, all you Bear and Cub fans, this is my grandson Walker's favorite songs. Here,
I had to mention that was my grandson's birthday the other day, too.
A 2, a 3. Take me out to the ball.
Got to work on my tune there, I guess.
I guess that's pretty good.
I've done this a few times at Wrigley, so it was a lot funner when Harry Carey was alive. We'd be hammered by the 7th inning.
Yeah, look at that. Then he throws a souvenir out to the crowd.
And somebody got a signed hat.
Yeah, and I figured you've done that several times. You said 4 or 5 times you've done that before?
Yeah, I usually get to throw out the first pitch, but I can't even do that anymore.
So what was it? Any fun stories with Harry Carey hanging around him at all?
Oh, Harry was a classic. Yeah, it was fun being around Harry. The stuff he got away with on the air was amazing.
Well, you know, Chicago is such a unique town. I've heard you talk about it. You got the Bears, you got the Bulls, you got the Cubs, you got the White Sox. But you've always said it's Blackhawks.
Yeah.
But it's clear to you what that town is.
Oh, it's definitely a Bear town. There's no doubt about it. It's the Bulls won 6 championships back in the '90s, and it was great for the city. But nobody really cares. I mean, they live and die with their Bears, and unfortunately, they've died a lot the last 40 years. It's been a pretty dry spell for them.
Do you want to go back for those I mentioned? You started at BYU, and a lot of people are surprised to hear, because of your personality, that you attended BYU. And I asked you
I was surprised.
I asked you during.
I didn't want to go.
I asked you earlier this morning. I said, you played for the great Lavelle Edwards, and I said, did you take your 2-year missionary trip that most BYU players take as part of their commitment to the Mormon religion? And you said?
No, only the guys that can't play go on those missions. If you notice their long line of, they've had a pretty good string of quarterbacks, and if you notice, none of those guys have gone on missions. It's the guys that really are struggling and can't really play. They figure they can leave for 2 years and come back, and then it's usually even worse. So, no, I didn't have to do that. I'm not LDS myself. I grew up in California. I grew up with the Brothers and the Mexicans. So I never even knew what a Mormon was. But I did. I moved up there. My dad's job moved him when I was a junior in high school. So I did play 2 years of high school ball there. So I got a little feel for the state. But it was not what college life is supposed to be like. That's for sure.
So the number that just blows me away, Jim. When all was said and done, when Jim McMahon left BYU, he didn't set 5 records. NCAA records, didn't set 10, didn't set 20, didn't set 30, didn't set 50. You set 70 NCAA records by the time you left. Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, we got to throw the ball a little bit back then. Then I go to Chicago, I got to hand it off every day. It was kind of boring.
So one of the guys I was going to show you, your head coach, Lavelle Edwards, you talking about and you were mentioning all the great coaches he brought in, Norm Chow, who run the Burroughs Award, and others. But what a passing institution that became with all the great quarterbacks that have played there.
Well, Lavelle knew at the time that in order to get national recognition, he had to do something special because BYU was having trouble recruiting, and so he decided he was going to start throwing the football. Putting a lot of points on the board, and it's a lot more exciting, when the bulbs are flashing on the scoreboard all the time than just watching a soccer game. I mean, Yeah, he loved to throw the ball, and what was great about Lavelle is he hired coaches, but he kept the same nucleus of the offense. Always was the same, and he just let his guys coach. But we're always going to throw the ball, and he got them on the map, and we were finally able to win him a bowl game back in 1980. He'd been to a few and didn't have very good success, and I don't know how we won that game that night, but we were finally able to win one for him.
Unbelievable comeback against SMU, who had a young Eric Dickerson and Craig James.
Best team money could buy.
That's
back
right.
then.
It was NIL before there was NIL, right?
There was. They had I think they had 8 first-rounders on that team.
Yeah, we played against
special.
them too. Yeah, it was impressive. One of the other things I wanted to show, by the way, I told Jim doesn't pay attention to football like he used to, so I let him know, hey, we went to BYU last year, one of the most beautiful stadiums I've ever seen. We win. And had Robbie Bosco last year. Robbie's a great guy, super nice guy, class guy. And then BYU comes to Arkansas this year, and you get you a win. I hope you're happy about that. It's.
I heard about it. Yeah,
but I thought this was interesting. If you go back and look, you're different in every way. And I don't think I've ever seen a quarterback, when you were in college, you wore this face mask. So I want to say, what's the story behind that? That looks like almost like a defensive, lineman face mask. Sometimes quarterbacks back in the day wore one bar, but you have multiple bars there.
Well, I started out with a 2-bar face mask, and I got my chin split open. The first scrimmage we had, I got a hand, something hit me in the chin, split it open. So I had stitches for about a week, got them out. The very next week, same thing, a scrimmage happened, and got hit in the chin again, busted it open again. So I went to the further bar down here, and then I was able to catch more hands than I caught.
And you wore that the rest of your career?
Yeah, I just kept that because it just keeps people out of your neck.
Yeah.
They're always trying to grab your neck and rip your damn throat out. So.
Yeah,
they had a tougher time doing that with that bar down there.
And the game was different back then in terms of what they allowed for
yeah, they could take 2 or 3 steps and still drill you in the head. So,
yeah. You were drafted. I don't know if you guys know, he was the 5th overall pick in the NFL draft. 5th. You go to the Bears, and I heard a story that I guess it was the owner. You can let me know the contract issue that they pretty much gave you a contract and said you were supposed to sign it, and you decided to respond in what way and what happened?
Well, I had just gotten drafted, right? I was supposed to be drafted in the 4th pick by the Baltimore Colts. All the indications were I was going to go to Baltimore. I'd been back there a couple of times, had dinner and lunch with Johnny Unitas at his restaurant. He was telling me all about the city. But I had forgotten. I told my agent I didn't really want to be in Baltimore. And so when draft day came, I was just sitting at home. It wasn't like we were all back in New York like they do now. So I'm just sitting there with my family, and Pete Rozelle got up and said, with the 4th pick, the Colts select quarterback, so I'm thinking it's going to be me. And he said, Art Schleister, Ohio State. And I'm like, oh, wow. And then my phone rang right away. It was my agent. And he said, what'd you think? And I go, what happened? I go, who did I piss off in Baltimore? And he said, well, you told me you didn't want to play there. And I said, well, yeah, I didn't. He said, I told them that not to draft you because they couldn't even sign, I think it was Curtis Dickey that they had at the time, their running back. So they couldn't sign him. So I told them, don't even bother drafting you. So I had no idea who was picking next, and it happened to be Chicago. So they called, and I said, they said, can you come to town? I said, sure. So I got on a plane, took a 3-hour flight, and then they picked me up. Limousine, had some beer in it, right? So it wasn't like I was 18, I was 22 years old. And so I had a couple of pops, and I wasn't even thinking about the press, right? So we pull up to Hallis Hall, and there was still a couple of beers left on the string, so I grabbed those with me. And I got out of the car and just woof. I'm like, oh boy. And so Mike Ditka, who was it was his first year as head coach as well. He happened to be walking in the building, and he looked at me and said, so you're my 1st round pick, huh? And I said, I guess so. And so now I go in, and I got to meet with George Halas, Papa Bear Halas, the starter of the National Football League. And so I'm sitting there in front of his secretary for literally about an hour, just sitting there, just looking at her, looking at the walls. And I had a couple of friends on the team. Kenny Marjoram was a wide receiver. Keith Van Horn was an offensive tackle. And I knew those guys from some All-American teams that I'd been on the previous year. And so they were in town. They wanted to take me out, and they said, "They're like, come on, let's go." And so I was excited to go out on the town in Chicago, and I'm sitting there looking at this secretary. Finally, I just said, "Hey, what am I waiting for?" And she said, "Well, Mr. Hallis would like to speak to you." And I said, "That's fine. When is that going to happen? What's he doing?" "Well, he's taking a nap." I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" I said, "Wake his old ass up. I got things to do." And so she goes in, wakes him up. So I walk in, and he's got a contract for me already. I'd just been drafted 4 or 5 hours ago, right? And the first thing out of his mouth, well, I hadn't even sat down at the desk yet. And he said, "Well, you're too short. You got a bad eye. Your arm's suspect. Bad knee." He goes, "Maybe you should go to Canada." This is the first words out of his mouth to me. And I'm looking at him. I go, "Well, why'd you draft me, old man?" I said, "Who's in your scouting department?" You know, and then he slides the contract over. And at this time, if you remember, the USFL League was just coming into being, if you remember that league. And I knew I had a meeting with George Allen, the ex-Redskin coach who was going to coach the Chicago team of the USFL. And I had a meeting with him 3 days after this meeting with Hallis. So, and as Hallis is sliding the contract over, I just saw one number. And I'm like, "You're crazy." I rolled it up. I threw it at him. I said, "I'm not signing this." And I got up and I walked out. That was my first meeting with Papa Bear. So now I go meet with George Allen 3 days later, and he offered me an awesome deal, part ownership of the team, this and that. And I'm like, "George, put this in writing. I'll play for you." But I said, "I have a deadline." They told all the rookies that year, they said, "If you don't sign by July 15th, you're not eligible to play that year." And that's when I knew the NFL was full of shit, because 2 guys did not sign, or they signed after July 15th, Marcus Allen and Darren Nelson, who was a running back from Stanford. They both signed later, and they got to play. So I knew that then that the NFL was just crazy. So, but George Allen never brought that contract back to me. So I ended up having to sign that wrinkled up paper I threw at Hallis. He couldn't wait to unfold it for me, too. He took his time. So I was not on good terms with the owner right out of the gate.
Looking back, we were talking on the morning show today, you know, that Bears team, the great Bears team had, I think, 5 NFL Hall of Famers on that team, and you throw in Ditka, number 6. So just want to run through a few of the guys on that team, get your thoughts. Obviously, let's go ahead and hit that, Matt, if you can. Hit a couple shots here of Mike Ditka. No, let's go back to the other. Let's go back to that. So your memories of Mike Ditka, what's thoughts on Coach? We've had him here at the Touchdown Club. He was outstanding.
I still hear her voices in my head, and a lot of them is his. But it was an interesting relationship. I would have loved to play with Mike. He was a great football player, great tight end, but that's how he called plays, like a tight end, right? He had no idea what the hell he was doing. And plus, it wasn't like I was sitting behind a couple Hall of Famers when I got to Chicago. I don't know if you remember the names Bob Avellini and Vince Evans, those household names. So he really wanted. I think he wanted me to play early, and I wanted to play as well. But yeah, it was interesting. Early on, I think we got along okay. But then the further I got into it, and I understood that he didn't know what the hell he was doing as far as calling plays. Like I said, he was a tight end, and that's how he would call plays, like a tight end. He had no rhyme or reason why he would send stuff in. And he would get a little pissed off because I wouldn't call the play or I would change it. And I said, "Mike, I'm out here trying to win ball games." I said, "I don't know what the hell you're just doing. You're just picking plays out of a hat, it seems like." And I said, "Just put 10 guys in you like, leave me alone, we'll be fine." We only got to score 10 or 17 points. I think if we scored 17, we won like 65, 70 games in a row or something, if we got to 17 points. So, those guys get paid too on defense.
Does he appreciate you more now after all these years, you think?
Well, I would hope so, because he didn't have it. I don't know. He ruined more quarterbacks than I think he developed. I mean, it was not like I said, it was the most boring offense I've ever been in my life in Chicago. I said, "Look, I do understand what I'm doing. I can read a defense. I understand if they're going to blitz me. I got man-to-man coverage. I said, why can't I throw the ball to Walter than hand it up? Why does he have to deal with all this mess? I can get him outside on a linebacker one-on-one. There's not a linebacker in the league that can cover him. And give me credit, I can throw the ball 6 yards. Come on. But he was a little stubborn. He wanted to run the ball, control the clock. And I said, why don't we, he wanted, 10, 12, 15 play drives. And I said, why can't we just score in one and go sit down and have a drink? I didn't want to be out there that long. I mean, hell, your mouth gets dry. That's why my mouthpiece my whole career was leaf tobacco wrapped in bubble gum, because it kept my mouth juicy. Because when you go on a 12, 15 play drive, it's hard to talk after a while. Your lips start sticking to your teeth. And I called a lot of timeouts just so I could go get water. I call the timeout, and he'd be yelling, bitching at me. I go, hey, I'm thirsty. God damn, I've been out there yelling and screaming for a while. I need a drink. So.
What about, you mentioned the great Walter Payton. Got some great picture. Matt, I don't know if you have more than that, but there's a couple. I love this shot. You talk about iconic. Look at that. Two great Chicago Bears.
Yeah, his rear end looks a lot better than mine. I always got pads and stuff all sticking everywhere. He was a great teammate. A lot of fun. He was a big prankster. Toughest, strongest guy I've ever met in my life. I mean, for a guy that was about 5'10", 200 and maybe 10 pounds, strongest man I've ever met, and just did not like to be tackled. He made some of the most unbelievable runs, 30-yard runs that only gained 1 or 2. He'd be bouncing from side to side, especially the 82, 83, my first 2 years. Our O-line sucked. And I don't know how he lasted 6 years prior to that, because once 84 is when our line started gelling, and I don't know how he did it as well as he did those 6 years prior to that.
Next shot is mentioned earlier, Dan Hampton. Look at this. This is Dan Hampton, you, Jay Hilgenberg, the center, and Mike Singletary. You talk about an impressive-looking group. Let's talk about 99. What do you remember about Dan Hampton, Arkansan Dan Hampton?
Oh, yeah, Hamps. He was, what Buddy call him? Big Rook, I think. Buddy was Buddy's nickname for him. But, he was a big, strong guy. And like I said, our defense was kind of new at the time, so people were having trouble figuring it out, because Dan was basically a defensive end and tackle sometimes, but when he put him on the nose, I mean, it's hard to see over him. He's 6'6".
Yeah.
And when he stands up with those pads on, he's
he also was
huge.
He also was a guy who, like you, liked to have a good time. I mean, that's.
Hamp liked his beers. There's no doubt about that. A lot of our guys did.
I mean, that's one of the things that
we worked hard, but we played hard.
Yeah,
too.
I think that's what makes that 85 team unique. Not only you had some of the greatest players ever to play the game, you guys were unique personalities that just loved to have fun and enjoyed each other.
Yeah, we did. We certainly did that. I mean, we worked probably as hard as any team in the league. With Mike Dickett and Buddy Ryan, they didn't like each other, and that trickled down to the players. So we basically played 4 games a week. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday were game days, because no period was taken lightly. Buddy's guys would be yelling, "Hey, Buddy, they're cutting us," in practice, and Buddy'd say, "Well, do they cut you in the game?" "Yeah." "Deal with it." That was his answer to everything. Deal with it. And so it got pretty intense. And then at the end of practice, Dickie had a habit of making us get on the goal line and run 110-yard sprints until he got tired of blowing his whistle. And we'd all be on about 15 or 20, and Fridge would be on his second or third one.
Speaking of Fridge, real quick, I mean, from an icon standpoint, I mentioned you, obviously a great icon. That dude turned out to be an icon several years.
Yeah, that was quite a circus with the Fridge. He was a very unique player, as you can see by the shape. But a guy that was 6'2", 300. When he was 320 pounds, he was a hell of an athlete.
Yeah, sure was.
He was quick. He was actually very, very quick for the first 5-10 yards, and then he'd get pretty tired after that.
A lot of folks, Jim, have asked, and I remember, in the Super Bowl, he gets to score. Walter Payton does not. I'm sure you've been asked it 1,000 times. What's your memory on that?
Well, it's unfortunate that they happened like that. We all thought everybody would have more chances in the second half because we came in at halftime saying, let's put, 100 on them. And Ditka was all for it. And then we were basically taken out in the, middle of the third quarter. But Walter had a lot of chances. I think he carried it 27 times, something like that in the game. But their whole focus was we stop Walter Payton, we win. And that was a bad choice because we had a lot of good football players. But I think we could have gave it to him 100 times. I don't think he'd have scored because that was their focus. I mean, they did a good job of stopping Walter, but everybody else had big days because of Walter. I mean, I talk to people all the time. I said, look at I think it was the first play of the second half. We're backed up on our 4-yard line, and we run a play-action pass, and it wasn't even a good fake. There's 6 guys chasing Walter. And Willie was running up the middle of the field, and I throw it another yard. He might go 96 for a touchdown, but that's the kind of influence he had on that game. I mean, his greatness was why everybody else had big days.
Part of your persona was the headband. Just wanted to see sort of once you realized that could be a nice weapon to be able to make your points known. Just talk about the origins of that.
Well, I was wearing a headband since college. The reason I started wearing it is because when you practice, especially in training camp, and you take your helmet off and on as much as you do during the day, it just rips the skin off your head. I mean, you see guys all the time in training camp with big bandages on their foreheads because they have no skin. And that's the only reason I started wearing that stupid thing. And then I figured I could have some fun with it. I got fined the first playoff game in '85. I got fined $5,000 for a headband I'd been wearing for 2 years. So it pissed me off. And I got a hold of the rule book. I don't know where it came from. It showed up in my locker one day. So I started reading through it, and I figured out they shouldn't have been able to find me that first game. And so to have a little fun, the next week I put Pete Rozell's name on there. And I didn't get a fine that week. I got a phone call thanking me for the free advertising. And then Adidas wanted me to wear it for the Super Bowl. They offered me $50,000 to wear it. And I'm thinking, all right. In my head, I'm thinking, all right, $5,000 for the playoff. The most they can find me is 25. So I'm thinking I'm going to make money either way, right? But then I'm thinking, after I got a hold of the rule book, I said, no, they can't even find me for this. So I'm going to have some fun. And I decided I ended up wearing all charities during the game. Every series I had a new charity on. But all during the pregame, I had the Adidas one on. And the head referees chasing me around the field. I can't let you on the field. I know. So then it was the national anthem. There's Walter, myself, head referee. And as soon as the anthem's over, I went to put on my helmet, and he goes, I can't let you on the field. I said, I know, but you can't do shit about this. And I pulled it down around my neck. And if you see every picture in the Super Bowl, you can see Adidas clear as day. So Adidas was happy. I got my money. I didn't get a fine. Because if they fine me for charities, they're going to look like real idiots. So I got great response from all the charities. And the following year in the rule book, a lot more changes. They had you can't wear this, and this, and this. But I said, look, you made a big stink about this. It has nothing to do with the game, but I made you look like a fool. But, yeah, it was fun.
I have to ask you this. I know you've been asked 1,000 times. Let's just watch the beginning of this. This is something maybe the greatest part in NFL history. One of the great parts of NFL history is the Super Bowl Shuffle. Let's watch when we get to Jim's part here if we can, Matt.
Yeah, this thing won't go away. See, we weren't in this line here.
That's right. You don't see Jim there. We're going to jack that up a little bit, Matt.
Even the brothers had trouble with this. Look at that.
Well, they call me sweetness, and I like to dance. Running the ball is like McMahon. We had the goals since training camp to give Chicago.
We filmed this thing the day after we lost to Miami on Monday night. Or they did. I didn't show up. Walter Payton and I both told them we're not doing this because the deal was we're going to make a record, not a video. Willie still looks like that, too. This was surprising getting Singletary to do this. So.
Yeah, I know. So up next is you. So did it take you long to prepare for your line here, or you had it easy?
I don't even know what I was saying. Yeah, we only did our part because we got they came to us, said they were going to sue us if we didn't do it, even though it said nothing about a video in the contract.
Here we go.
So we did this after practice in the racquetball court at Hallis Hall. Walter Payton and I did.
When I hit the turf, I've got no plan. I just throw my body all over the field. I can't dance, but I can throw the field. I motivate the cats I like to tease. I play so cool, I aim to please. That's why you all got.
But I did have hair, though.
How about that? It still lives to this day. Can't get away from it. Just can't get away from
It
it.
will not go away. I mean, everywhere I go, they still bring that thing up. But we did get a gold record and a platinum video. So.
And I guess Dick, I guess he got over it, right? Yeah, pretty easy.
Well, he had his own music video.
Oh.
He endorsed pretty much every product on the market, and he got a little bit upset at the players. He said, I don't want you guys doing any more endorsements, this and that, because we had a couple of, I think it was Jay Hilgenberg and Jimbo Covert got offered to do a Chunky Soup commercial.
Yeah.
And Dick said, no, you're not doing it anymore. And then a week later, he was doing the damn commercial. So, yeah, guys got a little pissed off at that.
The argument's always brought up is the 85 team, the greatest team ever. And your response to that is?
Well, I'd line up against anybody with those guys. Yeah, I think we do pretty well.
Yeah, I'd say so too. And maybe when it comes to personality, the only team I think of that could rival you in terms of personality, maybe some of those Raiders teams. They were
Well,
Ken Stabler.
They would definitely rival us. Yeah.
they were crazy, but it was fun,
great
right?
Character. Oh yeah, it was all in good fun. I mean, back then it was. Football was not a big deal to those guys. It was almost like a second job.
You come the next picture I want to show before we let you get out of here. I thought this was you and another icon of Chicago. So I love this picture.
Yeah.
Obviously Michael Jordan. There's a young Michael Jordan with the football. You with the basketball.
That was before he was a Michael Jordan.
That's right. That's right. So the town at that point was a Bears town. What do you remember?
But
about
notice
Michael
how
Jordan?
little that football is in his hand. And I'm yelling, hurry up, snap the picture. I can't hold this thing very much longer.
Of course, the next picture, of course, you had to have your influence on this, and so you got out the glasses.
Yeah, MJ was fun to hang around with. We played a lot of golf together, and very competitive guy. He'll gamble on about anything.
Go to 15, Matt. I want to show this real quick. This is something people may not know about. So. You did not get a
Billy
chance.
Clinton.
We know Bill. We're all friends of Bill. Now, remember now, in 1985, when you guys won the Super Bowl, you were not able to go to the White House because of the Challenger.
Correct. The space shuttle blew up a couple days after we won, and so all the focus went there, obviously. But they should have been able to sneak us in at some point before we finally did get to go. So this is 11 years after we won, and I explained to all my teammates what had happened, because a lot of the guys I was playing with were in junior high at that time, so they didn't even remember the space shuttle, I don't think.
Right.
But, so I explained to everybody why I was going to wear my jersey, and we ended up going with the Bears a few years after this. But
under Obama, because Obama was a big Chicago Bears fan, right?
Yeah. And I told all my linemen, I said, hey, send me your jersey, I'll hold those up too for the team picture, but they didn't want.
So just to make that
clear, they were
afraid.
afraid.
Yeah, just to make that clear, he goes with the Green Bay Packers. Who's going? The Green Bay Packers had won the Super Bowl, but he wears his Bears jersey, and there were a few folks that weren't happy about that, right?
Well, there was a few. I think some of the Green Bay Packer fans might have been pissed, but I explained to all my teammates what I was doing. I said we didn't get to go. I'm just going to represent my guys, and the only guy that was really upset was Fritz Shermer, who was our defensive coordinator at the time. And I figured it out why, because Fritz was the defensive coordinator with the Rams, and we beat their ass to go to the Super Bowl. So that's brought back some bad memories for Fritz.
Sure.
Other than that, guys, we're okay with it.
Last thing before we let you go. So when you got off the bus, the limo van last night, man, I could see you were tired and obviously having to deal with that foot injury. Show the picture, Matt, the last picture of Jim with I think it's 16. So that's a picture of.
That's typical Sunday.
So tell everybody what you're doing now with Revenant. And talk about the pain that you suffered. And I know for a while you were dealing with dementia issues and memory issues, and a chiropractor helped you. Talk about the effect of the NFL on your body and what you're doing now.
Yeah, I've been dealing with some head issues for quite a few years now. I have to go back to New York about every 4 or 5 months, get an adjustment. It's not a manual adjustment. It's actually a machine that it takes me longer to lay on this table than the procedure actually takes. All I hear is a click, and I guess it sends a pulse through my neck and moves the bones enough to my spinal fluid doesn't flow properly. I've got a few different areas in my neck and my head where it just has a problem getting around it, and so when it starts to pool, I start getting bad headaches. That's when I know it's time to go see the doc.
It made a difference. You said you were struggling.
Oh yeah, there was
at one
times
time.
I've had 2 or 3 teammates kill themselves, take their own lives, because they were having the same problems I was having, and I had the same thoughts. I was living in my room weeks at a time in a dark room, just laying there. Had no idea what was going on, and we don't like to ask for help, and so thank God these doctors in New York, they saw the Sports Illustrated article I did. Said, come to New York, we think we can help, and so they go, you're going to have to spend a week. And I'm like, why? And they said, well, if what's happening, what we think is happening, the adjustment's not going to last. And so I go there. They explain to me what they think the problem was. They put me in the CAT scan, and it proved what their theory was. And so they did an adjustment that first day, and within minutes, I was jaundiced. I couldn't talk. My head was pounding. It was just like it was. The only way I could explain it was like the toilet flushing. I could actually feel the fluid leaving my brain. It was like amazing. And he said, well, it's not going to last because these muscles have been out of whack for 20 years. And sure enough, that night, it popped out while I was asleep, and it was excruciating. They had to actually sedate me the next morning to put me back on that table. And he said, the longer I can keep it in this alignment, the longer it'll stay in. So it's been, at first it was every 2 or 3 months. Now it's like every 4 or 5. So, it's working. At least I know now what's wrong with me. My other friends have, they suffered, and they ended up taking their lives because they didn't understand it. At least now I know as soon as I started having headaches, I'm going to the doc. And the only other option would be to drill a hole in my brain, run a shunt down into my stomach, and I don't want to deal with that. So. And
instead of Percocet and hydrocodone, you've launched a new business venture.
I'm in the cannabis business now. It's been on the side for all these years. Now we can finally bring it out in the open. But I've enjoyed cannabis since 1973. So, it's so much better for you. We all have an endocannabinoid system in our bodies. We're supposed to be using this plant. It's a medicinal herb. It's not a drug. It's only a drug when man puts his hands on it, starts putting chemicals in it. Nobody'd ever have a cocaine problem if you just ate coca leaves. It's the same with marijuana. There's no side effects. There are side effects. It actually heals your body. I was on opioids for my whole career. I was eating over 100 perks a month. And even after I retired, I probably went 5 or 6 years still eating those because that was my routine just to function. I had to take a couple for this after my foot exploded, but other than that, I haven't had a pain pill since probably 2006.
How many states is let's see, how about that? How many states is Revenant in?
I believe we're in 12 states right now. My partners are Kyle Turley, an ex-ball player as well. He named the company Revenant because after the movie.
Yep.
That really touched him. He saw that movie after he got DiCaprio gets mauled by the bear, and that dream scene with the Indian. We believe that was cannabis that healed him, and so it basically saved our lives. It got us off these pills that actually kill you and are very addictive to something that actually helps your body and helps you heal.
Revenant coming to Arkansas, maybe?
Let's hope so.
Let's go.
I've got a card of somebody over here.
RJ?
I'll be giving that to our CFO. I'm the CTO. I'm the taste officer.
Ladies and gentlemen, Jim McMahon, everybody. Give it up for Jim. Great
Thank you
job.
guys for having me.
Outstanding.
Go Hogs.
Go Hogs. That's it. Great job. We'll let you. Yeah. All right. And for those, here's the deal.